Today we are going to discuss history chapter, chapter number 1, that is our living planet, the Earth. In this chapter you are going to learn the different names of the Earth, size of the Earth, the distribution of water and the oceans, continents on the map, latitudes and longitudes, time, local time, standard time and international dateline. We are living on the Earth. It is the third planet from the Sun. Look at this. The Sun is a star. From the Sun, the Mercury is the first planet we can see. Next to the Mercury we can see the Venus. The third planet we can find, that is the Earth. So that is why I told you Earth is the third planet from the Sun. Earth. Earth is a home for all forms of life like plants, animals and even human beings. Because it is suitable distance from the Sun, range of temperature, life supporting gases, atmosphere, water cycle, these living beings are live on this Earth. Our Earth is called by many names. This Earth also called this Earth is called by many names. The Earth can be called as a living planet. The Earth can be called as unique planet. The Earth also called as water planet. The Earth also called as blue planet. Why it is called as a living planet? As I told you earlier, the living organism, plants, animals or human beings are lives in this Earth. So that is why it is called as a living planet. It is also called as a unique planet because only in this planet all these living organisms, then we can see the plants, even the animals or human being are living. That is why this only the planet we can find all these living organisms. That is why you can say it is a unique planet. It is also called water planet. Almost 71% of the total land area is covered by the water. That is why it is called as water planet and it is also called as blue planet. What is the size of this Earth? If we come about the total land area of the Earth is about 510 million square kilometers. This Earth is the 5th largest planet in Sun's family. The diameter of the Earth is approximately 4 times greater than the Moon. Try to understand. The Earth is 4 times greater than the Moon and it is around 107 times less than that the Sun. When you compare the Earth and the Sun, the Earth is 107 times smaller compared to the Sun, but Earth is a planet, Sun is the star. Let us discuss about the distribution of land and water bodies. As I told you, the total geographical area of the Earth is about 510 million square kilometers. The distribution of land and water bodies. The total geographical area of the Earth is 510 million square kilometers. In the total 560 million square kilometers is covered by water and even the land. The water is covered about 361 million square kilometers. It is almost 71% of areas covered by water. Whereas land 149 million square kilometers is almost about 29%. The ratio of the land and water bodies is about 1:2.43%, which means if the land is covered by 1% means we are going to call the water is covered is about 2.43%. Then what is the shape of the Earth? The shape of the Earth is often described as geoid. which literally mean the earth shape or oblate spheroid. The teachers used to say that the shape of the earth is like a egg or geoid. Yes, of course, all are more or less a similar shape only. That is why I told you the shape of the earth is a geoid. Look at the pole. So, it is a flatten at the poles and it is a bulge. So, you can see at the pole it is a flatten, but when it comes to the equatorial region, move toward the equatorial region, it looks like a bulges at the equator. If you come about the equatorial circumferences and polar circumferences, look at this picture very carefully. If you come about this earth, in the center of the earth, imaginary line if you draw, that line we can call as equatorial line. The equatorial circumferences is about 40,076 kilometer. If you go to the polar circumferences is about 40,008 kilometers. The difference of the 42 kilometers diameter is the proof for regarding the geoid shape. As we have mentioned, the geoid, we can see the oblique of your eyes, or we can call geoid shape. In this earth, we have large land mass or the large land size we call as continents. The land bodies of the earth are known as continents. These continents are land mass of large in size. There are 7 continents we can find in this earth. What are these 7 continents? You can look at this one. There is Asia, Europe, North America, South America, Africa, Antarctica and even Australia. So, Australia also can call it another name Oceania. The largest continent is Asia. The smallest continent is Australia. So, how many continents are there? There are 7 continents. Which is the largest continent? Asia. Which is the smallest continent? Australia. Next to the continent, we have large water bodies on this earth. The large water bodies on the earth are called as ocean. There are 4 oceans are there: Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean and Arctic Ocean. Among these 4, Pacific is the largest and deepest ocean, whereas the Arctic is the smallest and shallowest ocean. The ocean may not be so deep. Which one is not so deep and it is the smallest ocean means that one you can say Arctic Ocean. Now, if we come about this earth, for our understanding, we will divide into northern hemisphere and also will divide into southern hemisphere. The northern hemisphere we called as land hemisphere. The northern hemisphere we called as land hemisphere and the southern hemisphere we called as water hemisphere. Why the northern hemisphere is called as land hemisphere? Because the northern hemisphere is covered by 60% of land and just 40% of water bodies. Since it is covered almost 60% of land is in the northern hemisphere, just about 40% of water bodies are there. That is why the northern hemisphere we called as land hemisphere. If we come to the southern hemisphere also we called as water hemisphere. Why the southern hemisphere is called as water hemisphere? Almost 81% of land is covered by water, just 19% of land in the southern hemisphere. That is why the southern hemisphere we called as water hemisphere. Let us discuss. There are imaginary lines which is drawn on the map or the globe. These imaginary lines we called as latitudes and longitudes. In early class you have studied, it may be called sleeping line. Longitude means it is a vertical line. is nothing but standing line. Latitude and longitude. Why this latitude and longitude we acquired? If the latitude and longitude if is not there, it is very difficult to locate the places, direction, or to calculate the distance between the places, because the earth is in spherical in shape. To know the position, distance and the direction from the east and to the west or north to the south, a network of lines are drawn on the globe. That network of lines are called as latitudes and longitudes. These lines are intersect each other at right angles and create a network called grid or critical. Grid means in Kannada we call jaldrive. One lines intersects another one. So, when it crosses each other, okay, in the right angle, that one you call as grid, are going to call critical. Critical means I told you it intersects at the right angle and it looks like. So, that one is called as grid or critical. Now, let us first will discuss about latitudes. As I told you, it is an imaginary line which is drawn, have the same angular distance north or in the south equator. Okay. The earth equally divides into two halves. It may be called as northern hemisphere and it can be called as southern hemisphere. Which one divides the earth equally two halves? That one will be called as equator. And the equator also can called in another name great circle. The great circle or all latitudes are marked with degrees. It is equal to the circumference of the earth. The other lines of the latitudes are shorter in the length, whereas compared to the equator. The length of the lines of the latitude decreases with the distance from the equator. When you go from the equator towards the polar region, the equator will be the longest latitude. If you go towards the polar region, it will be shortened in distance. All the lines of the latitudes are circles and parallel to the equator. From the equator towards the polar region, so we have 90 latitudes. From the equator, if it comes toward the southern polar region, we have 90 latitudes. If you go towards the north polar region, you have 90 latitudes. Same way, if you come to the south polar region, from the equator, you have 90 latitudes. So, did you understand what you mean latitude? Latitude means the horizontal line. Totally how many latitudes are there? If you include the equator, 181 latitudes. If you exclude the equator, there are 180. But if you ask how many latitudes means, we are supposed to say 181 latitudes are there, including equator. What are the important latitudes? There are 7 important latitudes are there. The 0 degree latitude we called as equator, which is the center of the earth. It is the longest line I told you. It is the longest line I told you. It is also called as great circle. If you go towards the northern hemisphere, at the 23.5 degree we have, that one we called as Tropic of Cancer. Same way if you come to the southern hemisphere, from the equator at the 23.5 degree line, imaginary line is marked, it is called as Tropic of Capricorn. Again, if you go to northern hemisphere at a 66.5 degree, the important longitude is drawn, we called as Arctic Circle. Same way if you come to southern hemisphere at a 66.5 degree, in the southern hemisphere, an imaginary line is drawn, we called as Antarctic Circle. At the 90 degree line is drawn, we call North Pole. At the southern hemisphere, the 90 degree, the imaginary line is drawn, we called as South Pole. These are 7 important latitudes are marked on our globe or the map. These are 7 also imaginary lines. Now, let us come and discuss about longitudes. The imaginary lines that intersect equator at right angle joining the north and the south are called as longitudes. Again, longitudes also imaginary line. On the globe, the longitudes are shown as the series of semicircle that run from pole to the pole, which means from the north pole to the south pole, passing through the equator, which passes through the equator. So, here we are going to use the word meridian. What do you mean by the word meridian? The word meridian, meri means mid, dien means a day. So, which means where a sunrise falls vertically on one particular place, from there we start to calculate the meridian. All the lines of longitude are equal length. The lines of longitude are called as meridians. Meri, mid. Meri means mid. Dien means day. Where the sunrise falls vertically on one particular place, that is going to be called midday, that will be called as a noon. From that time onward, the day will be calculated. It will be applicable in every country, almost every country they follow the same. Meridian passes from Greenwich, that is in England. Okay, in England is a place called London, there it passes. That is why that one they called as prime meridian. That one we marked as 0 degree longitude. Prime meridian we can call 0 degree longitude we can call, or you can call Greenwich meridian we can call. There are 180 of longitudes are there in east to the Greenwich. From the prime meridian, if you move toward the east, we have 180 longitudes we can find from the prime meridian. If you move toward the west, again we can find 180 longitudes. Totally there are 360 longitudes are there. Totally how many longitudes are there? 360. From the prime meridian, if you move toward the east, how many longitudes we can find? 180. From the equator longitude, or from the prime meridian, or from the Greenwich meridian, how many longitudes are there in the east? Of course, 180. Let us come, my students. How the zones are divided in the hemisphere. The zone between the prime meridian and 180 eastern longitude is called as eastern hemisphere. The opposite zone is called as western hemisphere. As I told you, the prime meridian, the Greenwich meridian, from the Greenwich meridian there are 180 longitudes are there. From the Greenwich meridian moves toward the east, if you draw 180 longitudes, that is called as eastern hemisphere based on longitudes. Based on this longitude, if you draw from the Greenwich meridian towards the westward, 180 longitudes you can draw, that is called as western hemisphere. The distance between the two consecutive longitudes decreases gradually with the distance from the equator. From the 0 degree meridian, if it goes towards the 180, okay, naturally the distance will be shortened. This is because the meridians of longitude converge at two poles. What do you mean converge means? From one point towards the another longitude, that distance you travel, okay, the movement from the one longitude to another longitude we called as converge. On the equator, the distance between the two consecutive meridian is 111 kilometers. From one longitude to the another longitude, what the distance means is about 111 kilometers. Now let us come discuss about time, then followed by local time, standard time, and even we will discuss about international date line. Let me begin, my students, at time. The use of the latitude is to locate the place. Make it clear? To locate the place, what is required? Latitudes. Now, what is the use of the longitude? To fix the time. There is a relation between longitude and time. The earth is rotating on its axis and completes one rotation in 24 hours, which means there are 360 longitudes are covered within 24 hours. This gives rise to time difference of 4 minutes from every 1 degree of longitude to another longitude. 24 hours, 360 longitudes will be crossed means, then if you divide it by 24 hours, for each hour there will be a 15 degrees of the longitudes it passes. If you travel from one longitude to another longitude, the time you are taken is about 4 minutes. That 4 minutes the time what you are taken, it is called local time. If you travel from one longitude to 15 longitudes, try to understand, one longitude you are taken about 4 minutes of time. To pass one longitude to another longitude, you are taken 4 minutes of time. From one longitude to the second longitude, you are taken 4 plus 4, 8 minutes of time. Likewise, if you go from one longitude to 15 longitude, you will take almost 60 minutes. If you have taken the 60 minutes to travel from the one longitude to the 15 longitude, that will be called as zonal time. If you have taken the time from one longitude to another longitude, that will be called as local time. How you will gain a day, how you will lose a day. Here we call EGA, East Gain Add, and we call WLS, we call West Lose Subtract. There are two words we are using. One you call East Gain Add, the another word we are using West Lose Subtract. What do you mean by East Gain Add and what do you mean by West Lose Subtract? Listen very carefully. The time difference to be added. Okay, for example, you are in the equator, you are before the equator, you are in the west and you are moving toward the east. From the west of the equator, you are away from the equator. If you are going to cross the equator, a day to be added. What do it mean? For example, you are in Sunday, you are not cross the equator. Since you are not cross the equator, now you have to cross the equator, you are in the Sunday. But when you cross the equator, that will be a Monday, one day will be added. If you travel toward the west from the east, if you travel toward the west, even though it is Sunday, from the east you are moving toward the west. Even though if you go to the west, the day will not be added, the day you will lose, because to make a convenience of old time, this is made. The time difference to be added if you travel from west to the east of Greenwich Meridian time. A day to be lose if you travel from east to the west. As I mentioned, the local time, the time according to the longitude of a place or according to the position of the sun at the place is known as local time. Local time means I told you, okay, we can see where the sun rays falls vertically. It takes a time from one longitude to another longitude, you are called as local time. This is based on local meridian line. Where the sun rays falls vertically on particular place, that will be called as noon. From that longitude to another longitude, if you travel, that distance it takes the time is about 4 minutes. All the places situated on the same meridian have the same local time. Every longitude has its own local time. Now, what is the standard time? But if you use the local time, one place to another place, there will be different timings, there will be confusion in the fixing the timings in the country. For example, you take in our country, if the person is in Gujarat, there is a person in Allahabad, there is a person maybe in the east, okay, there will be different timings will be there. That is why there will be confusion in the local times. To avoid the confusion of the local times, many countries followed uniform time throughout for the country. Such uniform time is based on one central meridian of the country or the meridian on which the most important city is located. This uniform time which is followed throughout the country is called as standard time. For example, let us come to India. So, let us come and discuss Indian standard time. You can look at that. There is a longitude which is passing through near to the Gujarat, is about 68 degree east. The another longitude, the edge of the India we can see 97 degree in the east. So, now India has to fix the standard time. That is why we are taken from 68 degree till the 97 degree, which is the center point we are taken. Which is the center point? The 82.5 degree which is passes in Uttar Pradesh at Allahabad. In India, 82.5 degree east longitude is considered as the standard meridian of country. It passes through Allahabad of Uttar Pradesh. The time based on this meridian is called as Indian Standard Time. If we compare about the Indian Standard Time and Central Meridian, Prime Meridian, that is in London, we have 5 hours 30 minutes difference will be there. Why we have 5 hours 30 minutes? As I told you, my students, you can calculate one longitude to another longitude, it takes 4 minutes of time. Now we have 82.5 degree. For 82.5 degree, if you calculate 4 minutes each degree, then we have half degree. So 4 minutes for each longitude and half if you calculate, you will get a difference about 5 hours 30 minutes. Next, let us come to time zone. Time zone means in certain countries of this world where the longitude extent is so large, there is a difference of 3 to 4 hours between one part and the other. So, the land surface is divided into time zones. The whole globe is divided into 24 such time zones, so that the time in each zone differ from the other just only 1 hour. Large countries like Russia, there are 11 time zones we can find. In USA and Canada, there are 5 time zones we can find. In Australia, there are 3 time zones we can see. Now, international date line. When you are going to travel for a far country, local time cannot be maintained. Standard time will not be suitable. A zonal time will not be adjusted. That is why we have maintained international date line. The international date line is mentioned based on Greenwich Meridian or Prime Meridian, and the day is changed whenever people cross this line by ship or a aeroplane. Mr. Jerome, working as assistant master at St. Joseph's High School, Bryan Square, that is at Bangalore. Thank you, students. I wish you all the best. Study well. I will meet you in another class. Thank you.